The rain hammered the graveyard like God's own judgment, turning the fresh-dug earth into a slick, sucking mud that clung to my polished shoes. I stood there, staring at the polished mahogany box that held Felix, my stepbrother, the one who'd always been too soft, too different, and a laugh bubbled up from my gut, sharp and ugly, slicing through the minister's droning eulogy. It wasn't grief that twisted my mouth into that cruel grin. It was relief, pure and vicious, because finally, the freak was gone, and the family secret he'd dragged around like a noose was buried with him. My mother shot me a glare that could curdle milk, her umbrella trembling in her white-knuckled grip, but I didn't care. Let her judge. Felix had been the wedge splitting us apart since the day Dad brought his new wife home from that podunk diner in rural Illinois, 16 years ago. I was 12, all scraped knees and football dreams, and suddenly there was this kid, Felix, 8 years old, with his wide eyes and sketchbooks full of boys holding hands under impossible sunsets. "He's artistic," his mom would say, like that excused the way he'd stare at me a beat too long, or the way he'd blush when I ruffled his hair. Artistic. Bullshit. He was a goddamn liability. And now, at 24, cancer had finally done what I never could. Shut him up for good. The laugh escaped before I could choke it back. A bark that echoed off the headstones like a gunshot. Heads turned. Aunt Rita's mouth fell open. Cousin Jake muttered, "Jesus, Oliver," under his breath, but I couldn't stop. Felt good like lancing a boil. Felix, with his stupid pride parades and his whispered confessions in the dead of night, the ones I'd shoved down deep because no way in hell was I like him. No way was I the one who'd kissed him back that summer in the barn, tasting salt and shame under the hayloft's golden dust. Buried. All of it buried. As the casket lowered with a mechanical whine, the first clod of dirt hit the lid thud, and something snapped inside me. Not regret, not yet. Just a hollow echo, like the laugh had carved out my ribs. Mom grabbed my arm, her nails digging in like thorns. "Oliver James Harlan, what the hell is wrong with you?" Her voice was a whip crack, low and venomous. The same tone she'd used when she caught Felix and me wrestling too close on the living room rug. "This is your brother. Stepbrother." The word stuck in my throat like gravel. But I yanked away, splashing through the mud toward the old Harlan family plot, where Dad's stone angel loomed like a sentinel. I needed air, needed to outrun the pitying stares, the way the wind carried snippets of the eulogy. Felix was a light, loved fiercely, never hid who he was. Bull. He hid plenty from Mom, from the town that whispered faggot behind his back. From me most of all. That night in the barn, when we'd been 17 and 16, sweat slick from baling hay, his hand on my chest, my heart hammering like a trapped bird. I'd pushed him away, called him sick, but the lie had burned hotter than the truth. I slumped against the iron fence, rain plastering my shirt to my skin, and that's when I saw it. A groundskeeper, hunched and anonymous in a yellow slicker, slipping a yellowed envelope through the wrought iron gate. "For you, Harlan," he grunted, voice like gravel over tires, before vanishing into the downpour. No name on it, just my initials, OJH, scrawled in Felix's looping script, the ink bleeding from the wet. My fingers shook as I tore it open, expecting some maudlin poem or a final, "fuck you." Instead, a single sheet, typed, formal as a legal notice with a notary seal at the bottom. "Oliver, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if you're laughing like I think you are, like you did at my coming out party, or when Mom found my journal, then good. Let it hurt. But listen, because the truth isn't what you think. It's not about me. It's about us. About Dad. Go to the attic in the old house. The trunk under the stairs. There's a box marked F. Don't burn it. For once in your miserable life, don't run. Love always, even when you hate it. Felix." The paper crumpled in my fist, rain smearing the words into illegible streaks. Love always. The bastard. I wanted to shred it, to stomp it into the mud with his coffin, but my legs were already moving, carrying me toward the family sedan like a man possessed. Mom called after me, "Oliver, the service." But I slammed the door and gunned the engine, tires spinning in the slurry as I peeled out of Willow Creek Cemetery. The wipers slashed at the storm, but nothing could clear the fog in my head. Felix, pulling one last stunt from the grave. Typical. The drive back to the farmhouse took 40 minutes that felt like hours, the radio crackling with some country ballad about lost love and dusty roads. Fitting, I guess, for this slice of heartland hell. We'd grown up in that sprawling Victorian on the edge of Decatur, Illinois, the kind of place where cornfields stretched like golden oceans and Sundays meant church and potlucks. Dad had built his life there as a mechanic, grease under his nails, a beer in hand, the epitome of Midwestern stoicism. When he married Felix's mom, Ellen, a waitress with dreams bigger than her tip jar, it was supposed to be a fresh start after Mom's endless shifts at the factory left her hollow-eyed and chain-smoking. But Ellen brought Felix, and Felix brought chaos. I remember the first time I saw him. Skinny as a reed, with hair like spun copper and eyes the color of storm clouds, clutching a stuffed bear like it was his last lifeline. "Be nice to him, Ollie," Mom had whispered. But nice wasn't in my playbook. I was the golden boy, quarterback in the making, straight-A jock who fixed cars with Dad and dreamed of escaping to Chicago, where real men didn't whisper about rainbows. Felix was other. He'd draw me pictures of knights slaying dragons, but the knights always looked a little too much like us, side by side, swords crossed. I'd crumple them, call him a fairy, and he'd just smile that sad, knowing smile that made my stomach twist. By high school, the twist had turned to something darker. I'd catch myself watching him in the bleachers at my games, his cheers louder than anyone's, or the way he'd patch up my bruises with gentle hands that lingered. And that summer, the barn, the barn. We'd been alone, the air thick with hay and heat, and he'd said it plain. "Ollie, I think I love you, not like a brother." His voice had cracked, brave as hell, and I'd frozen, the world tilting. Then I'd kissed him, hard and desperate, because for one stolen afternoon, the labels didn't matter. It was just us, tangled and breathless, hearts sinking like they were made for it. But labels do matter in a town like Decatur. When school started, I pulled back, buried it under layers of denial and booze. Joined the team, dated Jenny from chem class, laughed loudest at the locker room jokes about queers. Felix tried, he tried to talk, to bridge the gap, but I shut him out. "You're disgusting," I'd hiss when Mom wasn't looking, even as my dreams replayed that kiss in Technicolor. He started dating that artist kid from the city, the one with the tattoos and the Vespa, and I told myself I was relieved. Until I saw them together at prom. Felix in a thrift store suit that fit him like a dream, and jealousy clawed my guts raw. Cancer came fast, stage 4 by the time he told us. Pancreatic, the doc said, a thief in the night. He fought like a cornered wolf. Chemo, trials, the works, but it whittled him down to bones and fire. I'd visit the hospital, sit in silence while he sketched, pretending I didn't see the way his hand shook. "Promise me you'll live big, Ollie," he'd rasp, eyes fever bright. "For both of us." I'd nod, throat tight, and bolt the second the nurse turned away. Coward. That's what I was. The farmhouse loomed through the sheeting rain, its gingerbread trim peeling like old skin. I killed the engine and dashed inside, the screen door banging behind me like a gunshot. Mom wouldn't be home for hours. Reception at the VFW hall, potato salad and small talk to drown the grief. The attic stairs creaked under my weight, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam from my phone. The trunk was there, under the eaves, a battered leather thing Dad had dragged from his daddy's attic. The box inside was small, pinewood, etched with F in childish letters. Felix's handiwork, no doubt. I pried it open with shaking fingers, heart pounding like it wanted out. Inside, letters, yellowed and tied with twine. A stack of Polaroids, a cassette tape labeled Truth Serum, for Ollie only. The first letter was from Dad, dated the year before he died, heart attack at 48, behind the wheel of his Chevy. "Son, if Ellen's boy is reading this, no, wait, this is for you, Oliver. But if Felix ever needs it, God, how do I say this? Your brother's blood, not steps. Ellen and I. It was before the wedding. A night, a mistake, but no mistake at all. He's yours, Ollie. Half of you in him, from the eyes to the fight. Don't hate him for what I couldn't give. Protect him. Love him like family should. Dad." The world grayed at the edges. I read it again, then again, the words blurring with tears I hadn't shed since I was 10. Felix, my brother. Blood. Not step, Not freak, not the wedge. The Polaroid spilled out. Dad and Ellen young and laughing at a county fair. Me as a toddler, gap-toothed grin. Felix as a baby, cradled in Dad's arms, the resemblance screaming now that I saw it. The same jawline, the same stubborn chin. And one of us, kids, arm in arm on the porch swing, identical smiles under the harvest moon. Nausea rolled through me. All those years, the slurs, the distance, I'd hated my own blood. And that kiss? Incest, the town would whisper. But no, it was just love, twisted by secrets and shame. The cassette. I fumbled for the old player in the corner, jammed it in, hit play. Felix's voice crackled to life, weak but steady. Ollie, if you're listening, I'm sorry. For pushing, for loving too loud. But you gotta know, Dad told me last year before the end. About us. Blood brothers. That's why I never fought back. Why I let you hurt me. Because family forgives. And Ollie, I saw it in you that summer. The way you looked at me. You're not straight, not really. You're just scared. Like I was. Live big. Okay? For the both of us. And if you laugh today, laugh again tomorrow. But make it kind this time. The tape hissed to silence. I curled over the box, sobs ripping free, raw and ugly, soaking the letters. Rain lashed the roof like applause or judgment. Felix. My brother, my mirror, my unspoken heart. I'd buried him with hate, but he'd risen to bury me with truth. Hours blurred into a numb haze. I sat there on the attic floorboards, the cassette player whirring empty static, until my legs cramped and forced me up. The box clutched to my chest like a shield or a bomb. I stumbled downstairs, the house echoing with ghosts. Every corner held Felix. The kitchen table where he'd doodle while I scarfed cereal, mocking his girly lines. The back porch where we'd fish the creek at dawn. His casts always tangling because he'd rather watch the water than the line. I'd tease him mercilessly. City boy can't even bait a worm. But secretly, I'd untangle it for him, our fingers brushing in the mist. Now those brushes felt like omens, loaded with the weight of blood and buried wants. I poured a whiskey from Dad's dusty bottle in the sideboard. Smooth burned down my throat, chasing the chill, and sank into his old armchair by the fireless hearth. The letter from Dad stared up from the coffee table, its edges curling like accusations. Protect him. Love him like family should. What a joke. I'd protected him right into an early grave. Love twisted into something poisonous because I couldn't face my own reflection. The phone buzzed. Mom, no doubt, furious about my vanishing act. I let it ring, screen lighting up with texts. Where are you? Everyone's asking. This isn't you, Oliver. Come back, please. But how could I? The truth was a live wire in my veins, sparking memories I'd cauterized years ago, like the night after Dad's funeral, when Ellen had shattered. Pills and wine. A bad combo that left Felix catatonic on the bathroom floor. I'd found him, 16 and feral with grief, rocking with his knees to his chest. He's gone, Ollie. Everyone leaves. His voice had been a whisper, broken glass. I'd pulled him into my lap without thinking, held him until the sobs ebbed, our breaths sinking in the dim light. For a moment it was like the barn again, safe, us against the world. Then Ellen banged on the door and reality crashed in. Stepsons don't hold each other like that. I drained the glass, the burn settling into a dull ache. Outside, the storm had eased to a patter, moonlight slicing through the clouds like a hesitant forgiveness. I needed air, needed to move before the walls closed in. Grabbing my keys, I headed to the barn, the real one, not the memory. It stood sentinel behind the house, red paint flaking, doors groaning on rusted hinges. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the ghost of alfalfa, hay bales stacked like forgotten altars. I climbed the ladder to the loft, the one that creaked under my weight like it remembered. And there it was, Felix's hideout, untouched since his diagnosis. A blanket fort of sorts, quilts draped over beams, scattered with sketch pads and empty soda cans. I sank onto the makeshift nest, flipping open the top pad. Pages of us. Charcoal strokes capturing my scowl during football practice, the curve of my shoulders mid-throw. Softer ones, me asleep on the couch, lines tender enough to break your heart. And hidden in the back, pressed between pages like a pressed flower, A photo booth stripped from the county fair. For poses of us crammed in the booth, hamming it up. Grimace. Laugh. His head on my shoulder. Our lips almost touching in the last frame. Eyes locked with that electric charge. Tears pricked again, hot and unwelcome. Damn you, Felix, I muttered to the empty air. Why'd you have to be so? You, brave, beautiful, the brother I didn't deserve. And me? I'd been the villain in his story, the homophobic prick who sneered at his dates, who bailed when he needed me most. After the Vespa boy, Mark, his name was, dumped him for some theater kid in Springfield, Felix had shown up at my dorm in Champaign, drunk on cheap vodka and heartbreak. He said I was too intense, Ollie. Too much. We'd crashed on my twin bed, him curled against my side, confessions spilling like wine. I only ever wanted you, but you don't. You can't. I'd frozen, arm around him heavy as lead, and whispered, Go to sleep, Felix. It'll be okay. But it wasn't. He left at dawn and we didn't speak for months. Cancer bridged that gap, forced proximity in sterile rooms. I'd watch him sleep, for dripping like slow poison, and wonder what if I'd claimed that kiss? What if I'd marched with him at Pride, arm linked, damn the whispers? What if I'd told him, that night in the hospital, when he gripped my hand and said, Promise me you'll be happy, Ollie, real happy, that I was gay too, terrified, repressed, but gay. Instead, I'd lied, sure, kid, with a wife and 2.5 kids. He'd squeezed back, eyes dimming. Liar. The barn door creaked below. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Oliver. Mom's voice, edged with exhaustion. I wiped my face, shoved the sketchpad under the quilt. Up here. She climbed slowly, joints protesting, her funeral dress mud-streaked and wilted. In the moonlight filtering through the slats, she looked older than her 52 years, lines etched by factory fumes and family fractures. You scared me, boy, running off like that. She settled beside me, close but not touching, the way we'd always been since Dad. What was in the envelope? I hesitated, the letter burning in my pocket. Felix. He left me something. The words hung, heavy. She nodded, unsurprised. Felix had always been the planner, the one tying loose ends while we unraveled. He loved you, you know, more than anyone. Even when you... She trailed off, eyes on the floorboards. Even when you made it hard. Guilt twisted like a knife. Mom, did you know? About Dad and Ellen. Her breath hitched, a sharp intake. Know what? I pulled out the letter, handed it over. She read in silence, face crumpling like tissue paper. When she finished, she pressed it to her chest, rocking slightly. That fool. He swore he'd take it to his grave. Tears tracked her cheeks, unashamed. Felix was 3 months along when we married. Your dad. He wanted to make it right. But I said no DNA, no questions. He was family, blood or not. And you boys, you were thick as thieves back then. Thieves.
Stealing glances, stealing moments.
Why didn't you tell me? She laughed, bitter and soft. Tell a teenage hothead his brother's real kin? You'd have run Oliver. Or worse, hated him more. She touched my knee, tentative. But Felix knew. Your dad told him on his deathbed. That's why he stuck, why he forgave your cruelty. He saw you in himself. The fighter, the scared kid under the bluster. I swallowed hard, throat raw. I laughed, Mom, at the grave, like some monster. She pulled me in then, arms fierce around my shoulders. The first hug in years that didn't feel obligatory. Monsters don't cry in barns at midnight. They don't come back for the truth. We sat like that, rocking in the quiet, the storm outside a distant murmur. For the first time, I let myself grieve. Not just Felix, but the boy I'd been, the love I'd denied. Gay. The words settled, not like a bomb, but a key turning in a long-locked door. Dawn crept in, pink and hesitant over the fields. Mom stood, brushing hay from her skirt. Funeral's not over. Reception, then scattering the ashes tomorrow. You coming? I nodded, pocketing the Polaroids. Yeah. And Mom? There's something else. About me. The confession hovered, half-formed. She waited, patient as the land. Felix wasn't the only one hiding. Her Her smile was small, knowing. I figured, honey. A mother knows. She kissed my forehead, salt and whiskey mingling. Tell the world when you're ready. Or don't. Just live it. As she descended, I lingered, tracing the photo booth strip. Our almost kiss stared back, promise unfulfilled. But maybe, in the ashes, in the truth, there was room for new beginnings. Not replacement, honor. I'd scatter him in the creek, where we'd fished, and whisper the words I'd never said. I love you too, brother. Blood and all. The reception hall smelled of overcooked ham and wilted casseroles. The VFW a sea of khakis and condolences. I wove through, nodding mechanically. He was too young. Such a sweet boy. The platitudes of buffer against the raw edge of revelation. Cousin Jake clapped my shoulder. Oblivious. Tough break, man. Felix was. Unique. Unique. Code for that queer kid, but tonight it landed different. I murmured thanks, eyes scanning for Ellen. Felix's mom, my almost mom, huddled in a corner with a styrofoam cup of punch. She looked up as I approached, eyes red-rimmed but sharp. Oliver. Not warm, not cold, just weary. We'd never meshed, her free-spirited chaos clashing with Mom's rigid order. But grief forged strange alloys. You got his note? Yeah. I slid into the booth beside her, the vinyl creaking. The box too. She nodded, stirring her drink absently. He planned it all. Made me promise not to interfere. A ghost of a smile. Bossy to the end. We sat in silence. The murmur of small talk a dull roar. Then, he talked about you, you know? Constantly. Ollie's got that fire, he'd say. He'll figure it out. Her voice cracked. I think he meant more than the shop. The shop, Harlan's Auto, Dad's legacy. The garage where Felix and I'd spent summers changing oil and trading barbs. I'd taken it over after college, dropping my engineering dreams for the familiar grease and growl of engines. Felix had helped, weekends when he wasn't at art school in Chicago. His sketches of custom paint jobs turning heads. Yeah, I said, throat tight. He meant everything. Ellen reached across, squeezed my hand. Calloused from waitressing, warm with unspoken forgiveness. Blood don't lie, Oliver. Neither does love. She rose then, leaving me with her cup and a weight lifted, fractional but real. The scattering was set for noon. The creek behind the farmhouse a ribbon of silver under a brittle blue sky. Family gathered, sparse. The Harlans never big on crowds. Mom and Ellen arm in arm, Aunt Rita dabbing her eyes, Jake fiddling with his phone. The urn was simple pewter, engraved with Felix's initials and a dove. His choice, Mom said, because he always flew free. We trudged the path, wildflowers brushing our calves, the air humming with cicadas. At the water's edge, a flat rock jutting like a pulpit, I took the urn. Hands steady now, not from whiskey but resolve. Felix Harlan, I began, voice carrying clear. Brother artist, pain in my ass. A ripple of uneasy laughs. Jake's bark, Aunt Rita's sniff. You saw me when I was blind, loved me when I was least, and you left this. I held up the letter, not reading, just showing. To remind us all, family's messy, but it's ours. I unscrewed the lid, gray ash whispering into the current, swirling like smoke signals. I laughed yesterday, stupid, scared. But today I laugh with you. The words tumbled free, laced with tears. Because damn, Felix, you got the last word. And it's a good one. As the ashes dissolved, a breeze stirred, carrying petals from the willows overhead. Mom slipped her arm through mine, Ellen on my other side. A trinity mended. Jake snapped a photo, unasked. For the memories. I didn't mind. Let it capture this. The truth rising like mist. The love unbroken. Weeks blurred into routine. The shop's clang a bomb. Customers trickled in. Stories of Felix surfacing. He fixed my carburetor last spring. Humming show tunes. Drew my kid a dragon. Spot on. I nodded, pride swelling where shame had festered. Nights, I'd pore over his sketches, framing one for the wall. Us as knights, swords crossed, not clashing but guarding. Chicago called, tentative, a gallery show of Felix's work, Ellen's invite. He'd want you there. I went, Suit ill-fitting, nerves jangling. The space buzzed, urban and alive, rainbows in every corner. I wandered, heart in my throat, until a painting stopped me cold. The barn loft, golden lights slanting, two silhouettes entwined. Not explicit, but intimate, eternal. The plaque, for Ali, blood, bone, and becoming. Tears came, unbidden, as a stranger, tall, kind-eyed, with a sketchpad under his arm, approached. You knew him? His voice was soft, Midwestern lilt.
I'm Alex.
Felix's studio mate. We talked art, loss, the ache of unspoken things. He bought me coffee after, the city lights a blur. He said you'd show up eventually, Alex grinned. Said you were worth the wait. I laughed then, real and light, the sound echoing off skyscrapers. Felix, always right. Blood don't lie, neither does love. And in that moment, under neon and stars, I stepped into becoming brother, survivor, man finally free.